Welcome to the Geriatric Millennials. This is Jayme.
And this is Beth.
And we are two oldish, youngish ladies.
Mm-hmm.
I don't even know what to say we're talking about. We're talking about dealing with aging parents.
Yes. Which is such a real thing that's awful, sad, and weird.
Yeah.
Like, what happened?
I know. Time went by.
Yeah.
Time went by and things shift and lots of changes happen in different seasons of life. It's a new season.
It is a new season. I distinctly remember like the moment that I was like, oh, my mom's getting old. Because it was, and maybe I've shared this, so forgive me if I have, but it's that traumatic. It was my grandpa's 100th birthday, and she and her sister were like planning the party for like all of our relatives and people to come up. And it was exhausting. And my cousin, well, she's my cousin's wife, and I love her dearly. And we just kind of were looking around being like, what is going on? Because like we had to have this big party for him, which let me just go back. We did too much for the man. Now, it's 100 years, it's great, but my mom tried to do everything in one day. So we did like a housewarming, and then after the housewarming, we were doing this big dinner at a church, which was the church I was working at the time because we needed a place and they let me have it for free. And we get there, my mom's like, don't worry, I have all the food handled, blah, blah, blah. So my cousin and I, we go early and we're setting things up and stuff. None of the food's there. Okay, we're just waiting. So we set us up as much as we can. My mom had this big plan to do like, you know, some frozen stuff that my aunt had brought and all these things weren't defrosted. It was like the biggest crap show ever. And so my cousin and I are running around in the kitchen. There was people coming up just like, when's the food coming out? And I'm like, I've sweated out my hair at this point because I had it straight. It's now curly. And my cousin and I are looking at each other. I'm like, never again. These women can never again plan a party.
And was it because she was older? Like, could she do that in the past? Because
Yes.
some people cannot plan parties.
This was in the past. She would have put it together. She would have had a plan, you know, all the stuff. And her sister would have worked it out, and they would have been the ones running the show. We're running around the kitchen. They're just walking around the party, talking to people like nothing's wrong when there's no food out, when it's like complicated, messy. It was the most frustrating thing. And I was just like, again, I just looked at my cousin. We're like, we are now the heads of the family. We are now the ones that will be planning if we ever do a Christmas together, if we ever do a Thanksgiving together, which in the subsequent years for Thanksgiving, this happened too. My mom's like, let's do Thanksgiving or let's do Christmas dinner. And all of a sudden I'm going over there. There's not really a plan. And it's just like, what is going on?
Yeah.
And like the food is coming out at different times. Like my mom had made a plan that the food would come out like, 15 minutes, this would come out. And then in 20 minutes, this would come out. And then this would come out. And I was like, no, that's not how we're going to do dinner,
Yeah.
And it's just stuff like that again, this was just the first inkling of like something has shifted.
Yeah.
Because it's just like the priority and the like go has changed. And I have to say, my mom is like in her, 70s now.
Yeah.
And it's just wild to kind of watch the choices that are made.
My mom is also in her 70s.
Yeah.
I will say, my mom has been pretty inspirational. If I am like my mom at her age, I will be happy. I mean, she's playing pickleball.
Yeah.
She's like active, but there are definitely some shifts that have happened. And I remember a friend, this was a couple years ago, and she was around my mom for a little bit, and she just was like, wow, your mom, she's so young for her age, kind of a thing. What is, and so she asked her, she's like, what's your secret kind of thing? And my mom was like, don't let the old lady in.
Oh, okay. That's fair.
That's what she said. Don't let the old lady in. And I have another, are we saying mother-in-law and mom? I mean, I guess that's what are our parents we're talking about. Okay, so my mother-in-law has always referred to herself as old. And she's completely embraced the quote-unquote old lady. Like she called herself an old lady when I met her. And she was 50, like early 50s.
Oh my gosh.
And I'm just like, girl, like that's not very far away from me. I'll be 50 in 5 years.
Yeah.
Why was she calling herself an old lady? She was still young. So anyway, there's a very different outlook there, because my mom was like, don't let the old lady in. And then my mother-in-law's like, I'm an old lady. Like
different ways to live. I can see benefits in both.
Yeah, for sure. But yeah, we were just, going to talk about just what dealing with being in the season of life that we're in and noticing those changes in our parents and then dealing with that because expectations shift. Like you realize, okay, this is on me now. I cannot expect my parent to do XYZ. I cannot rely on them for XYZ, it's a normal, natural thing. It's good, but
However,
it's also kind of like,
it's like, I'm not the adult here.
Yeah,
what? I have to think about things. Here's a classic. So this is during COVID times. So it's like people were still like masked, but it wasn't quite as intense. People were out a little bit more. And I happened to be at the grocery store and I see my mom in the distance, which I never usually run into her places. Jayme, she's limping. And I walk up to her. I'm like, hey. She's like, hey. And she's like buying dog food or something. And we're talking. I'm like, what's going on there? She's like, oh, the dog was outside the other night and it was really late and he wouldn't come in. And, I fell. No, Jayme, what happened was her dog was outside at 2 a.m. barking, wouldn't come in. So without her phone or anything, she goes down a steep, dark embankment down the side of the house to try and get the dog, proceeds to fall over.
This is not good. No.
Hits her knee, hits all kinds of stuff, and then has to kind of wait a minute to, recombobulate.
Yeah.
Roll over and then, limps back into the house. And I'm just like, and this was a time of year that was not hot, not cold, but could be cold enough to cause.
You're like, Mom.
I was like, ma'am, I'm gonna need you to carry your phone with you at all times. I'm going to need you to use a flashlight and not just think you're spry enough to see in the dark and, walk down steep stairs at 2 a.m. when your dog wakes you up.
Right.
I'm going to need when you do get hurt to let me know so I can take you to the doctor, because she's very much a person that won't go to the doctor for anything, which is terrifying as people get older, because you're like, so you had youth on your side before where, yeah, you had a UTI and you didn't treat it right away and it kind of, it settled itself. That's not happening now. Now you're going to get a kidney infection,
And what an adjustment for the parents themselves, because
you're so kind.
As our body, but think about that, because I don't think that yes, we do grow and develop and change, mentally, but it is different. It's at a different rate than our bodies. You know what I mean? I think that for them, just as a blanket generalization, we mature to an extent and then we're mature, but then our bodies keep getting older, but we don't feel or think we're older,
I know, but we're also in our 40s and experiencing micro, injuries and stuff. So I know that in 70, that's still going to be a thing too. And I would recognize you know what? Me going on a ladder at 75, not the safest.
Yes, but who wants to give up the things that you've always been able to do? Why, all of a sudden, is it just one day you can't? Because you're gradually, you just keep, you might be stiff, but you still got to move. I don't know.
I just need people to take calculated risks and not uncalculated risks.
Yeah, that makes sense.
I need my mom to do the math.
That makes sense.
I'd be like, hey, it's 4 a.m. and it's winter. Maybe it's not the time now to go do XYZ because no one will find me in the snow. You know what I mean? You can still do those things, but let's do them in a way that are people know what's happening,
right, Right.
Just little things like that.
Well, and being the age we are, there's just, health can just be fragile.
Absolutely.
And it's such a gift. And I know so many people my age who've lost both parents, who have parents that are dealing with illnesses and things that are really challenging, really hard, or maybe have had their whole life. I feel really fortunate that my parents were, my dad lived into his 80s and he was healthy his whole life. That's such a gift.
Yeah.
What a really amazing thing. Your dad died a lot younger. He wasn't even that old.
Healthy. Yeah. He was 62 and he was not.
That is
he
not
had a
very
lot of hard
old.
years. No. And that was hard too. Even my dad, when he started to, decline in his 60s, and, it was years leading up to that of just chronic illness and blah, blah, blah. And caretaking is super hard and challenging.
Yeah.
And, you're seeing someone that I remember my brother telling a story about my dad, because my dad had a lot of mini strokes, and he was a bass player. He was a great musician. He taught my brother how to play. It was beautiful. He tried to teach me how to play. I was like, Dad, that ain't for me. But I remember my brother was like hanging out with my dad, and he tells us stories how he was watching his father, struggle to make chords that he had been able to do his whole life, that he taught him how to do. And he was struggling to play music because of, his physical condition, that's super hard to see your parents deteriorate like that. Or you're just like, oh, you're not like as strong as you once were. And you're not as like, I think that's just so challenging to see. And especially at the time, my brother was like, barely, I don't even think he was 30 yet. So that was really challenging. But yeah, it's so weird to see your parents get old. I also think it puts the mortality like spotlight on you of like, oh crap, okay, they are going to be gone. And eventually like then I'm next in line, and then I'll be the one doing all the things. And then all of a sudden I'm going to be the one to decline.
Right.
And then it's just like, they're going to be talking, whoever in my life is going to be talking like, oh gosh, she's gotten real stubborn and is doing some crazy stuff as she gets older that she thinks she's 30,
Well, we have talked about filters before, and how as, women in midlife, we have a lower tolerance for things. And some of the filters and things we maybe would have put up with in the past, we're just not willing to do anymore. And I think that kind of continues.
I do too.
And I think it just gets more intense. And I think I have noticed, not just with my own parents, but just with other people in that age bracket, the lack of filters in terms of saying what comes to their mind, even if it's not appropriate or shouldn't be said.
Yes.
And they will say it, and it's like, oh wow, okay. And then and then you have more grace, I think, because you're like, well, they're old. But at the same time, it's like, what happened? What happened to the filters?
Yeah. No, it can be awkward. I remember hanging out with my grandma sometimes, and her name was Mildred. I'm named after her, is my middle name and hers were the same. And I remember hanging out with her when I was in college. She came and visited in Chicago a few times, and she just was so like, she just said stuff. And her favorite thing to say when we were like walking around looking at people, she's like, mirror, mirror. And I'm like, what's mirror? She's like, that girl didn't leave the house without looking in the mirror. That girl left the house without looking in the mirror. And you're just like, grandma. And she would just say stuff and giggle, It was just like, I loved it because it's like, I was thinking the same thing. So I do
but you
appreciate
just wouldn't
that.
say it.
But I wouldn't say it. I do think that there is a little about giving an unsolicited opinion as you get older that can be really freeing and fun. And then there's sometimes where it's just like, oh yeah, we need to watch our words a little bit. Yeah. I think the thing that kills me too with my own mom is like, she's gotten more stubborn as she's gotten older.
Yeah.
And I always think that's really interesting because she's always a little bit stubborn, and it's just so interesting to see like how the things that are like ingrained in you, your personality traits, how they just continue to, I feel like the grooves get deeper and deeper. And so it makes me wonder, like, what am I going to be like at that age? Like, what are my traits that are going to really pop out and people are going to be like, well, she's 80. What do you expect?
Right.
So, yeah.
Wow, that's a weird thought.
It is. I think the whole thought of getting elderly, like actually elderly, qualifying for, Social Security or, a senior citizen discount, I think it is very strange to think about.
Yeah.
Or to be like, oh, when I'm 80, what will life be like? It's like, what, 80?
Yeah.
I remember being in like my teens and thinking like, being 30 was it. Like, oh, I'll be like dead then. Who cares? 40? I'm not going to make it till 40. And now it's just like, oh, I still feel so young and, for the most part. Yeah.
Right.
It's a trip.
I think one of the challenging things that I'm currently experiencing is having a parent go through health challenges and disagreeing with their choices, but not having any say in that and being supportive of something that I don't agree with.
Yeah.
And I imagine that goes both ways. Like as a parent, having your kid do the same thing.
Yeah.
But being in the shoes of being the kid and then have your parent it's like a flip. It's a weird flip of that dynamic. That
I agree.
Is just, it's not easy.
No. I used to go in the last couple years of his life, I helped my dad a lot by like taking him to doctor's appointments and stuff, and having to like advocate for your parent and like say stuff like, well, no, what about this? And then it feels a little bit like you're overstepping almost, but at the same time you're like, but they might not be in a place where they know what questions to ask, or they're not seeing like a bigger picture, or, or
Yes.
it's just kind of like, oh, it's just so hard.
It is.
It's so hard to watch. It's so hard to be around. It's like so necessary though. And it's just like, I don't know, like this is weird.
Yeah.
I watched my mom. She took care of my grandpa until he died, and he was 105, and she lived with him for the last few years of his life. And it's just like,
wow. Every time you mention the age that your grandpa was, I am just blown away.
Yeah.
That is so old.
It's so, and I would tell him, I'm a grandpa, you are so old. And it's weird because like you could see that he was kind of done, but he didn't want to like go out, but he was just like, you could tell he was kind of done. Like if he passed away, he wasn't like, he lived his life fully. Let me just say that. But I just remember he was like at the end, he was shuffling. And I think that's a weird thing to see, is like you go from seeing, like my grandpa was super strong always. He was like a woodworker, super hard worker, always had like a beautiful garden. And there was just all of a sudden, it was a real like flip of the switch where all of a sudden he really couldn't walk. He really needed like support. He really like needed someone to hold his arm, and you're just like, it's so weird to see someone that's so strong and all of a sudden they can't do what they used to do, which had to just drive him crazy,
For sure. Well, and I recently had the experience of, being there when my dad declined and then passed away, like during that specific time. And it was something I'd never experienced before, but having now experienced it, like just being able to reflect on that, I can just see how, and even in the moment, having somebody, come to the end of their life, which we all will, like our, all of us and our parents that are still around will too. But just seeing how in some ways the beginning of life and the end of life are similar, because he just became more and more dependent and more just like not able to care for his own body, his own needs. And it's like the circle of life. I don't know. It's very strange to experience that and just go, oh, okay. Like, I think that's what it is.
Yeah.
It's the circle of life.
It's so weird. I was just thinking about this the other day, and like, I was looking around my place and like I have all these journals and all this stuff. And I'm like looking at all this beautiful art I've collected from like little thrift shops that are like original random things that people have painted on postcards or whatever it is. And I'm like, all of this stuff is going to end up at like Goodwill one day. Like, you know what I mean? Like, or whatever.
Yeah.
It's like, it's just like this stuff that I treasure, and it holds such memory and that I love, and like has like
a story
has
attached.
a story.
Yeah.
Like every piece of art in my house has a story, which I literally want to like invite people over. I'm like, can I just do an art tour and just tell you what each thing means?
Yeah.
And like all of these treasures, I'm like, oh, like some girl's going to come through here at an estate sale and pick up my old Barbies or something and put them on Etsy and get a bunch of money for them, or use them in art pieces, or somebody's going to buy my old costume jewelry that I was handed down by my grandma, not knowing that Stella owned this, or my family friend Donna gave this to me.
Wait, who's Stella? Because that was my grandma's name.
That's my mom's mom. She's a Stella.
My mom's mom was Stella too. I didn't know that.
Yeah, I love that name. Yeah.
I would name my daughter that.
Yeah,
if I had
it was on
one.
my list. If I ever had a kid, I was going to name her.
I love
Stella.
it.
But it's weird to look at your stuff and think of it in a different construct of like, this is going to sit in someone else's house, or this is just going to go in the trash, and like, like I was looking at all of these family photos that I'm like scanning and stuff, and I don't have kids, and I don't know if my sibling's going to have children. So it's like, who's going to even care about this legacy? And I'm like, well, I'm going to put them somewhere where people can just see them anyway,
Yeah.
And it's just so weird to think about like some of those things as you get older. And I think this comes up too, because I remember when my grandpa passed, like we have all this stuff of his that my mom was trying to get rid of for months, and we would put it in the group chat, like, does anybody want grandpa's old ties or this or that? And it's like, most people are like, no. And then it's just like, oh, you're just giving it away. And, I think of the things I took from my grandparents. Like I have this little owl that holds toothpicks that's milk glass, and it's so cute. And it sat on my grandparents' kitchen when I was growing up. And I have it in my house, and I see it every day. And it just makes me have such happy memories. And I'm like, this is so weird that this is going to end up in an antique shop and some girl named, Emma is going to buy it. And she's going to put her, half-used cigarettes in it or something. I don't know. Her vape pen, I guess, is what the kids do now. Or I don't know. It's just like, it's just weird.
Yeah.
And I just think, it's just interesting as we age, like our stuff and our things and the things our parents hold on to is wild too. Like, I don't know if I feel like your parents probably weren't as pack ready as my parents just because they moved a lot.
They did. But the one home that they have actually held on to through all of the moves, they had one home in Belize. Oh, it's got a lot. It's got like drawers and drawers of stuff. And I'm like itching to like go through and just get rid of stuff. But
I think the millennial inheritance is going to be real interesting.
Yes, agreed. Well, overall, though, I just hope that I can have grace in the season because, our parents have lived and they have gotten to the point where they are and they deserve to be honored, I think, and to be treated with respect. And now, not every aging parent is going to have lived a great life, of course. But I feel really fortunate for that. And I just want to so all these things that are maybe annoying or irritating or just like make me want to go, I want to have grace for that. Because I know we've talked about this before when we were talking about how am I turning into my mother?
Yeah.
And one of the things we talked about was repeating ourselves because my mom has always done that and, still does. And I just want to have grace for that because I don't live near my mom. And when I do have time with her, I want to have that. I want it to be quality time and I want to really soak it up and enjoy it because it's something that I know I'm not gonna, I don't know when I'm not gonna be able to have that option.
Yeah. I also think too, it's nice to have space for them to be heard. Like both of our moms have lost their husbands.
Yep.
They're in that I can't even imagine that season of life where it's like you spend decades with someone and now you don't have them. And then you're trying to figure out your own path. And you're also like, aging as a woman is challenging to begin with. And then like, I can't even imagine like what that process is as you, continue to get into places where you've gone through menopause. And it's like, menopause, I'm not looking forward to, but, I remember them going through it, and that kind of stuff. And, and losing friends and losing family. And it's like, they don't, my mom hasn't had either one of her parents now for a couple years. And, it's just like, like their own journey in that. I always want to make sure my mom feels heard and seen and loved. Because I hope I get that in return. But it's just so interesting because it's just like, I want her to impart her wisdom and her like that life journey that she's gone through in like a really healthy way for me. However, I'm like, we're also mother and daughter that have a lot of friction. So it's just like, it's like that happy balance of like trying to have I want to age with grace. Yeah. And so I want to glean everything off my mom to figure out how to age with grace. As much as possible. But it's a trip.
Yeah.
It's a trip. I'm
just grateful we both still have our moms.
Yes.
And I want to be sensitive to anybody listening that doesn't.
Yes.
And
or doesn't have a dad. We're sensitive to the dad thing.
The
or
dad,
no parents.
Like both.
Yeah.
Or maybe you don't even have a good relationship with your parents. Like that's another dynamic to have aging parents but not have a relationship. But then all of a sudden, like maybe you need to be involved.
Yeah.
And it's just, there's so many dynamics with family. And this by no means is just like an expectation that everyone can relate to you and I. I feel like you and I can relate quite a bit.
Yeah.
To
each other.
That's the to each other. Yeah. So that's the perspective we're coming with. But like, it's a strange season to be midlife. It's strange to have aging parents. It's strange to be considered old by all the young people. And we're like, dude.
Okay, this just happened to me at the grocery store this weekend. I had a headphone in because I like to listen to my music, which I realize is old people music now because it's like neo soul from the 90s. And I'm just like listening to my Erykah Badu and I'm trying to buy some cheese. And these young guys come up to me. They're like 16 or something. And this guy comes up to me. He's like, ma'am, where are the graham crackers? I'm like, oh, they're down there on the left by the cookies. And I was dying laughing because it's a Friday night. I had just gotten a massage and it was kind of later at night. I'm like, I'm going to go grocery shopping tonight. So Saturday, I don't have to do those errands. And here I am trying to do my grocery shopping for the week on a Friday night so I don't have to go out the rest of the weekend. And these young guys are getting fixins for s'mores and snacks and all kinds of, because they're about ready to go have a great night out on the town with their friends and be like young and fun and it's summer and school's out. And I'm just like shaking my head like, look at those sweet boys. He called me ma'am. And I'm like, oh my gosh, I've turned a corner. I'm auntie now.
I think so.
Anyway, so yeah, here's to aging with grace.
Yeah.
And having grace for our family, I guess.
For sure.
If you're enjoying the podcast and would like to support the show, you can share episodes with your friends and family, follow us on Instagram at the Geriatric Millennials, or leave us a positive review and rating, all which help us to grow. Our theme music was created by the Finley Ghost. Check out their latest album now. Thank you so much.